So what if I told you that the next global conflict, it's not going to be fought with tanks or jets, but with the tiny, kind of obscure metals that power your smartphone and your car? We're talking about weaponizing the global supply chain, and it's a new kind of conflict that's already happening. Let's really break this down.
All right, so not long ago, global markets just got hammered, wiping out a staggering $1.65 trillion in value. Now, you might be thinking, okay, another tariff threat, right? But the real trigger was something way more precise and a lot more powerful.
See, the real reason for all this panic was Beijing's decision to slap export controls on a group of obscure minerals. And this move effectively turned these materials into what our source material calls the financial WMDs of the 21st century. This is a fundamental shift, a whole new way of fighting a trade war.
So what exactly are we talking about here? Rare earth elements, or REEs for short. This group of 17 metals is basically the secret sauce in almost all of our high-tech manufacturing. And for this story, our main character is a silver-colored metal called neodymium. Just a few grams of this stuff can determine how efficient an EV motor is or how accurate a missile is.
And this brings us to our first big point. This isn't just another trade tactic. No, we are literally watching the birth of a new kind of financial weapon, one that targets the very bedrock of modern industry.
Let's really spell out the difference. The old way to do this was tariffs, right? Basically a tax on finished goods, just makes them more expensive. But this new weapon, these export controls on rare earths, it's totally different. It is not a tax, it's a veto. It's a choke point on the technology itself, giving whoever's in control the power to just say no to entire industries.
And that brings us right to this idea of a global choke point. By controlling the supply of these essential elements, one country can pretty much hold veto power over the production schedules and tech roadmaps of its biggest competitors around the world.
Think about your electric car for a second. The super powerful, super efficient motors in vehicles from Tesla, GM, and Ford, they all depend on permanent magnets made with neodymium. Without it, production could grind to a halt, or companies would be forced into really expensive redesigns. Basically, China's new rules control the tempo of the entire EV transition.
And it does not stop there, not by a long shot. The entire AI revolution, powered by companies like NVIDIA, relies on advanced semiconductors. Well, guess what? The super precise equipment used to make those chips, from companies like ASML, needs rare earth magnets to even function. So you get this double whammy, threatening delays and higher costs for the tech that is literally powering our future.
Now, the impact on national defense, this is where things get, frankly, pretty alarming. Defense contractors like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon absolutely depend on these high-performance magnets for missile guidance systems, for radar, for stealth technology. Beijing has even said that export licenses will likely be denied to overseas defense users. That's a direct surgical strike on Western military capability.
And you know what else is at risk? Even our green energy goals. The massive wind turbines built by companies like GE and Vestas, they rely on the exact same rare earth magnets. This means the global green energy transition can essentially be held to ransom, slowing down our progress on climate change.
So how do the financial markets react to this new reality? Well, the response was immediate, and it created this huge divide between those who were suddenly vulnerable and those who were suddenly invaluable. Let's look at the fallout and the surge. The pain point was felt right away, and for companies across these sectors, it was existential. We're talking about market leaders, Tesla, NVIDIA, whose entire business models were suddenly facing this massive new risk of production halts or even strategic supply denial.
But, amidst all that red ink, a few companies just soared. These are the US-based players that offer a way out of this dependency. Companies like MP Materials, which controls the main US rare earth mine, saw their stocks jump. Investors weren't just speculating. They were paying what you could call a geopolitical security premium for access to a secure supply that wasn't from China.
This chart really says it all. You can see the stark contrast, right? On one side, you've got the vulnerable legacy companies taking a major hit. On the other side, you've got the domestic alternative producers seeing a massive surge in their value. This is the market, in real time, completely repricing what industrial vulnerability means.
Okay, so this brings us to our final and maybe most crucial point. We are now living in a brand new supply chain reality. The old assumptions we had about globalized, just-in-time manufacturing, they've been shattered. Security and resilience, those are the new keywords.
So what's being done about it? Well, the solution is a multi-step process. First, the market recognizes the vulnerability, which we've seen happen. Second, governments are stepping in to incentivize domestic production, using powerful tools like the Defense Production Act. And third, the ultimate goal is to build a complete mine-to-magnet supply chain, right here at home, de-risking the entire process. And this isn't a small fix. We're talking about a structural, multi-billion-dollar shift in where global capital is going.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. For decades, we chased efficiency and low costs above everything else. But in this new era of weaponized interdependence, we have to ask a totally different question. Is the most valuable resource the mineral itself, or is it the security and resilience of the supply chain that delivers it? The answer to that is going to define the next chapter of the global economy.